Evening, guys. Sunday night, and if I'm a little disorganized here, I just made the discovery that our friendly Blackboard system managed to really somehow do a lot of damage to what had already been installed in Unit 3. So I've just spent the last hour or so trying to rebuild the unit with the material for next week, and I hope I've been successful. But if you have any problems going into the week, either accessing the material or making sense of it, or if things are not working or links are not right, please get to me right away and I'll try to fix it. I wish I could tell you what happened, but it's a mystery to me, and like a lot of things technological, for us old guys, it's going to remain a mystery. So hopefully I've fixed it and gotten it going again. And I can use that as a bit of a lead-in, because I'm not going to worry all that much, because if anything, coming into week 3 when we start talking about antitrust issues, which some of you referenced in the discussion board from week 2, it's probably the most boring unit in the whole course. I will admit to that. But it's a very important issue in sports, because sports tend to be, if not a pure monopoly, they're very close. There are not many sellers of big league sports. By definition, almost, there can only be one big league, and we've seen how that happened. You know, the guys of my vintage remember the old American Football League and the famous merger of 1970, when the NFL absorbed the AFL, and that morphed into the AFC, NFC of today. But, you know, that was about the last time a major professional rival to an established major league was able to succeed in forcing a change in the landscape. And as you see then, it didn't really maintain its status as a rival league. It was able to merge with the older, more established NFL, and look what it's become, the behemoth that we have today. Okay, backing up to last week, I started into this concept of sports franchises as profit-making businesses. As I said early on, one of the hardest things for us to do is going to be taking off the hat of the sports fan and being kind of critical and analytical as business and economics people. But I think it's a little bit of a controversial question, and there were posts on both sides, whether leagues should regulate the franchise profitability. Should teams become profit-making enterprises above all else? And I need to probably do a better job of timing my pre-recorded or pre-planned units, maybe to coincide with what's going on that week. But that, just for instance, last week NFL free agency started. And even though we all look at it from the fans' perspective, did our favorite team get stronger? Did our arch rival get weaker? What happened? This is a huge week when you have that second question, you know, should a team maximize its profits above all else, or should it put on-field success first, or marketability first? All these kind of things are at play every day in sports pages now, and will be in the free agency market. And that's a big change from years past. Salary cap has played a huge role in that too. You know, it's there to provide stability from a business standpoint, but look at what it's done to the whole idea of competitive balance. And actually, competitive balance is somewhere we'll be headed in week 4 and 5, so I think that's going to become a little bit more interesting, okay? But that's what's going on right now. So I think the discussion boards were interesting because they show a little bit of the power of leagues, and it got us talking about things. And also the text showed us a little bit things about leagues, didn't it? You know, we're looking at not only the economic power that a league has as an entity, but what else can it do for its members? You know, standardizing the rules of play may seem quite simple, but you know, for many years back in the earlier history of organized sport, that was a major issue. And even today, you see, again, let's stick with the NFL, how the rules committee has a tremendous effect on the product on the field, And the product on the field definitely has an effect on the business results. So those kind of things are in there. I just mentioned the NFL merger of the 1970 era. And I remember back then that one of the big controversies was that the AFL ball was just a little bit different from the NFL ball, and the question was, would that affect the passing game? The AFL ball was more of a little bit more. It was a little smaller, a little easier to grip, and the contention was that AFL quarterbacks were going to have a hard time adjusting to the NFL game. Joe Namath didn't seem to have much trouble in '69, so that's the kind of thing we had to worry about. All right, talking a little bit like a fan there, which is something I shouldn't do. So that's where we're going. I think the exchange we've had in the discussion board is very good, and it's at the level of detail that I'd like to see. Please, when you get into some of this NFL stuff this week, and I've kept the NFL because it's so prominent, but when you look at the antitrust things, don't just think about the NFL. That model is there in all major professional sports now. And actually, historically, the first league to have the antitrust exemptions that were given to it was Major League Baseball back in, I believe, the very early 20th century. So try to project that back and keep a historical context. I know it's not very exciting, but it really, really explains a lot of things. And then also try to start thinking about it in terms of the other way. Is there a single seller, that you can have too? Monopoly implies that single seller, but does it work from the player's perspective? There's only one buyer for his services. Tough things going on there, okay? Negotiations. You can see where the value of the players' union is coming in. So this is all kind of very dry this week. I understand that. Sorry about that, but it's just got to be done. And I think, though, look at the last question, the question that we are asking this week. I shouldn't say the last question, but when we ask in the discussion board, is the NFL one entity or is it 32 separate entities acting together? And there was very recently a case brought under the antitrust laws against the NFL, and it went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and involved the manufacture and distribution of apparel and uniforms, etc., like that. Look at that case. I really want you to make sure you listen to read the article at least. I'm going to also try to find a video that mysteriously disappeared, and if I can get that put back in, listen to that. But at a minimum, read that article before you answer the discussion board question. And as always, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me. Okay? Thanks for all your participation. I'm going to thank you in advance for your patience this week as we try to prepare some of these technical problems. And I'm going to be probably, if I do end up making any changes or do anything on the fly that affects you, I will let you know by way of announcement. Okay? Thank you very much.